It was late on a Friday evening when I walked through the front door, shoulders aching from another long day at work. All I wanted was to kick off my shoes, sink into the couch, and let the week fade away. But the moment I stepped inside, something felt off. Julia, my wife, was standing in the hallway, and she wasn't dressed the way she normally did for a casual night at home. She had on a fitted black dress that stopped just above the knee, her heels tapping softly against the wooden floor, and her makeup looked as if she were heading to a party instead of spending the night in. I paused, taking her in, and asked lightly, "Big plans tonight?" She hesitated just for a heartbeat, just long enough for me to notice, then smiled in that careful way she did when she wanted to seem casual. "Yeah, my friend needs me," she said, voice steady but eyes flicking to the side. It wasn't a huge slip, but it was enough to stir something deep in my gut. For weeks, I'd been watching small changes pile up like warning signs, girls' nights happening more often, her phone always at arm's length, a new perfume clinging to her clothes I didn't recognize. I'd ignored it at first, told myself I was imagining things. But tonight, looking at her shifting her weight and avoiding my eyes, I knew. She wasn't telling me the truth. I leaned back in my chair, studying her quietly. She was trying to appear normal, but her body language betrayed her. I knew that restless tapping of her foot, that tightness in her smile. I'd seen it before, when she had a shopping receipt or a surprise for me. But this wasn't about a secret gift or a forgotten bill. This was different. Taking a slow breath, I said evenly, "Before you go, there's something I want to show you." Her smile faltered. I watched the color drain from her face as she asked, almost too quickly, "What do you mean?" I reached for my phone. On the screen were photos I'd been holding onto for a week, evidence I never wanted to collect but felt I had no choice but to keep. Last Saturday, Julia had told me she was helping a friend move. She didn't come home until 3 in the morning. By pure coincidence, my cousin had been at a downtown restaurant that night. He saw her there, except she wasn't hauling boxes or lending a helping hand. She was seated at a candlelit table across from a man I'd never seen before. Laughing. Leaning toward him. Touching his arm. The kind of closeness that doesn't come from friendship. My cousin snapped a few pictures and sent them to me with a short message, "Be careful. Don't confront her until you're ready." Tonight, I was ready. I handed her the phone without a word. Her fingers trembled as she scrolled through the images, her in that same floral dress from last weekend, seated across from that stranger, leaning in for a kiss she thought no one else would ever know about. She froze, lips parting, unable to speak. "So," I asked softly, "where are you really going tonight? Another moving job? Or maybe dinner with him again?" The silence that followed was heavier than any shout. She clutched her purse like a child caught sneaking out of school, her breathing uneven. Finally she tried to force a shaky laugh. "It's not what it looks like," she said, voice breaking. I held up a hand, cutting her off before she could spin another story. "Don't," I said firmly. "Don't insult me. I've heard enough lies." For once, she had no words. The confident woman who had been ready to stride out the door now looked like someone cornered, her face pale. She opened her mouth to try again, but one look from me stopped her. "Tonight," I said quietly, "you're not going anywhere." Her eyes widened, and for the first time, she looked genuinely afraid, not of me, because I've never raised a hand to her, but of what my calmness meant. She knew the game was over. I reached into the drawer beside me and pulled out a folder. Inside were bank statements, screenshots of messages I had carefully recovered, and a draft of a separation agreement I'd already had drawn up with a lawyer days ago. I slid it across the table. She gasped when she saw the papers. You already knew," she whispered. I nodded slowly. "I knew enough. I just wanted to see if you'd tell me yourself." That truth landed harder than anything I could have shouted. She dropped onto the couch, her purse slipping from her hand. Tears welled up in her eyes as she reached out for me. "Please, it was a mistake," she said, voice cracking. "I swear it meant nothing." I looked at her steadily, my tone cold but steady. "Maybe you meant nothing to him. But you meant everything to me. And you threw it all away for a cheap thrill. She sobbed, burying her face in her hands, but I didn't soften. Some damage can't be undone. I stood, walked to the door she had been so eager to leave through, and opened it wide. You wanted to go out tonight? Fine. Go. But you're not coming back here. Julia stared at me as if she had expected anger but not finality. I pointed at the folder. Those papers will be filed on Monday. Every cent I've worked for is protected. You won't touch my savings, my house, or my future. The only thing you'll be leaving with is regret. Her sobs grew louder, but I stayed calm. She slowly gathered her things, and as she did, I felt something unexpected wash over me, relief. The weeks of dread and suspicion were gone, replaced by clarity. Julia had made her choice long before this night. I was simply delivering the consequences. She walked past me, her eyes swollen with tears. For the first time, she had no words left to twist or manipulate. The door closed behind her with a heavy sound that echoed through the quiet house. It didn't sound like loss. It sounded like freedom. That night, sitting alone in the living room, I realized I wasn't broken. I was free. Julia had thought she could live two lives without being caught. But secrets have a way of surfacing, and my response at the door had stripped away every excuse she had built. Sometimes betrayal isn't just about what someone does, it's about the choice they make when they think you won't find out. I did find out. And instead of pleading or forgiving, I chose to let her walk into the life she'd been hiding, while I stepped into mine, finally, for the first time in years, without her lies hanging over me.